Hello and welcome students to my class, and today we'll be doing C.S. Lakshmi Ambai's short story, A Kitchen in the Corner of the House. Now before I begin analyzing the story and studying the story, I would like to give you a brief introduction of the writer. Ambai. C.S. Lakshmi wrote under the pseudonym of Ambai. She is a feminist Tamil writer. She was born in 1944 in Tamil Nadu and grew up in Bangalore and Mumbai. She received her PhD from Jawaharlal Nehru University, and her stories have been translated into 5 volumes. The names of the volumes are In a Forest, second, A Deer, Fish in a Dwindling Lake, A Meeting on the Andheri Overbridge, The Purple Sea, and A Night with a Black Spider. Her writing touches on societal perceptions and the understanding of one's self, family, sensitivity, and love and its restrictions. She received the Ford Foundation Fellowship for a project Illustrated Social History of Women in Tamil Nadu in 1981. In 1992, she received the Homi Bhabha Fellowship to do a project on female musicians, dancers, and painters. Indian feminist publisher Kali for Women has published this research work in 2 volumes entitled Singer in the Song and The Mirrors and Gestures. Other non-fiction works include The Face Behind the Mask, Women in Tamil Literature, which was published in 1984, An Idiom of Silence, An Oral History and Pictorial Study of Art, Consciousness and Women, in a series entitled 7 Seas and 7 Mountains. The Unhurried City, Writings on Chennai, it was edited in 2004, published by Penguin Books, and Walking Erect with an Unfaltering Gaze in 2013. And recently she translated Black Coffee in a Coconut Shell 2018, a collection of essays on personal experience with caste, which was edited by Perumal Murugan. In 1988, Lakshmi founded Sparrow. Sparrow stands for Sound and Picture Archives for Research on Women. It is a non-governmental organization for documenting and archiving the works of female writers and artists. She is currently a member of the University of Michigan's Global Feminisms Project, and she was awarded the Lifetime Literary Achievement Award of Tamil Literary Garden, University of Toronto in 2008. She lives in Mumbai with her husband, her foster daughter, and 2 brothers. So we know that she is a feminist writer, and the story, A Kitchen in the Corner of the House, which we are going to read, it also expresses these notions about her. So now let's know something about the story. I will just give you a brief introduction to the story. When we read the story, a swift first reading of this story creates an impression that here is the tale of family life full of gentle humor, affection, and concern. The savage critique of the patriarchal underpinnings does not impinge on the consciousness unless close attention is paid to the ways in which each episode is structured and the ways in which the balance of power sways between and is manipulated by many women in the tale. Now, actually, this story is based on the patriarchal structure. जो पितृसत्तात्मक अपना जो समाज है उसके बारे में ये कहानी है. And when we first read the story, it doesn't impinge upon us that we are going to study this or these things are in the story. Now, this story is set in a traditional Rajasthani household. The normal mother-in-law, daughter-in-law tussle is presented at various levels and also with numerous permutations. So, जो सास बहू की जो tussle होती है, this is also shown in this story. The men, though hardly visible, are the ones who determine the course of the lives of the women. It is their ideology that has been accepted and internalized, and though the younger daughters-in-law see the injustice and acknowledge it, they still function according to its dictates. Now, actually, in this story, there are certain autobiographical things also, because Ambai, she was married in a Rajput family of Ajmer, and she's a South Indian and married to a Rajasthani. So, there are certain things which she herself experienced. And actually, I happened to meet her in one of the conferences. She's a very jovial person. As we can see, you can easily see in the picture, she's a very, happy person, and she has very strong views about feminism. यानी नारीवादी है ये, विचारधारा की supporter है, and she's the one. So in this story, there's one character, Meenakshi, and Meenakshi is somewhat similar to Ambai in her real life. So, by introducing one character who is not from the same milieu, the writer also presents an alternative viewpoint. And she is this character from outside is Meenakshi. Ambai's brilliance is apparent in the ways in which she constructs her characters. Even though they are none of them completely sympathetic, yet they unobtrusively gain the sympathy of the reader. That is, she's trying to tell the story from the point of view of women. Meenakshi is the narrator in the story. Identities and the ways in which they are formed are under text of the story. So she mentions many women, and through each character of woman, she tries to portray different kind of problems which are prevalent in our society. So this story, A Kitchen in the Corner of the House, is an outstanding story that concentrates on the experiences of women. It highlights various abstract themes such as liberation of women, position of women in the past and the present, symbols of freedom, and renaissance of women. The story describes the life of a group of women in Ajmer. Their life revolves around the kitchen. These women are the representatives of the entire women population, especially in India, who spend large part of their day within the confinement of kitchen. And this confinement is often undertaken willingly, since nurturing of the family is considered to be the chief duty of a woman in our society. So Ambai narrates the story from the perspective of Meenakshi, the youngest daughter-in-law of the house. And she is the person who is from the outside of the cultural background of Ajmer. That is, she is a South Indian married to a Rajasthani. As an outsider, she is able to observe the traditional joint family system of a husband, Kishan, very critically. And the story opens with a vivid description of kitchen in the house. And Meenakshi finds the kitchen. She says that right at the end, stuck at the careless manner, two windows, underneath one, the tap and a basin, and the latter was too small to place even a single plate in it. Underneath that, the drainage area without any ledge. As soon as the taps above are opened, within 10 minutes there will be a small flood. So, this is the situation of the kitchen, which is the most uncomfortable place. Like the place where it is constructed, it gives that it is constructed in a very careless manner. So, kitchen is a very important segment of the house, which is the source of health and well-being of the people of the house. So, in this story, the position of the kitchen is in the back of the house, while keen attention was given to the construction of other portions of the house, other areas of the house. And the kitchen remains neglected. This negligence actually signifies the status of women in that house, because women's most of the time is spent in the kitchen. And when this kitchen is in such a neglected state, we can imagine the women who work there, they are also in a very neglected state. So she actually describes it that the women appeared there, that is in the kitchen, like shadows, their heads covered, their deep colored skirts melting into the darkness of the room, slapping and kneading the chapati dough or stirring the fragrant spicy dal. So, this is the description, and Ambai observes that their style of life indeed encompasses the kitchen and was woven around the concept of the kitchen. That is, all these women, they are connected. They most of the time they spend the time in the kitchen, and the various activities that take place, this is described. Actually, on first reading this story, you feel, oh, what kind of a story it is. Every time they are making something or the other. Sometimes they are going on picnic, and sometimes they are making pulao or some South Indian food, or sometimes Rajasthani food. So their whole life is surrounded by in the kitchen. So in my next session, I'll be taking up the story in detail. So this is all for now, and I have also shared the PDF of the introduction to the author as well as the story. So you can go through the story, though I'll be posting a few pages, the first few pages of the story. Please read that story so that in my next session, when I take up the story, you will be conversant with the story so that we can understand and discuss it. So this is all for today. Thank you for patient listening, and we'll meet again soon. Thanks.